Alright, here we are for Friday Q&A, in and amongst it. I thought it might be a nice change of pace to get outdoors and do something. So let's get into the questions. If you have questions for next week, of course, get them in the comments and I will be more than happy to answer them for all you guys. Let's go. Would I consider doing a video where you guys send in your AX8 presets? Yes, definitely get them in. I'll put my email in the video description if you want to email them through to me, and I'll do a clip where I maybe do 5 to 10 of them and give you guys a bit of feedback and have some fun. I'll probably pick up some cool new ideas as well. What do you do for a living, music or something else? I basically do music, yeah, whether it's gigs, freelancing. I do a lot of teaching, and in fact, if you're interested in having lessons, there is a brand new startup called Musicon, which I'm doing some lessons through. You can either get Skype lessons or you can download essentially libraries of videos geared towards guitar playing. At the moment, there is a beginner's library and an intermediate library, and there's going to be plenty more of those to come. So whether it's going to be like advanced rock and metal stuff, or it's going to be stuff on theory and things like that, those libraries are in the works, and there'll be a nice supplement to the YouTube thing there. So yeah, I'm very, very fortunate to be doing music full-time at the moment. What makes a great song? I think that is a very, very personal question in many ways, and a very impersonal question in many ways, because you could easily say what makes a great song something that resonates with the most number of people, but I don't think music really works like that. I think any piece of art is great if you can consume it and you can learn something about yourself from it. So often when we talk about great songs, we're talking about these universal experiences with the human condition. But at the same time, you can have great songs that are literally about nothing. They might be about somebody eating their cereal in the morning, or green eggs and ham or something like that. So there's so many great songs out there. I don't think it's what makes a great song. There's no template for it. It's what resonates with you, and it's what resonates with people out there. One extra thing though, I think a great pop song is something that when you hear it once, it gets stuck in your head. So that seems to be a pretty good definition for a great pop song. If you want to buy a used Mesa Dual or Triple Rec, basically what I would recommend is try to get a Rev F or a Rev G, one of the older 2-channel models. You can tell because obviously they don't have the 3 channels, and there's just the master, like there's the black knob for the effects loop. It doesn't have the sort of like 2 knobs on there. The best resource for this though is probably Mesa Boogie themselves, that you can go through and look at. They've got like a serial number log, so you can kind of tell with the rectifiers. I think it's like somewhere in the early like 2000s or something like that through till maybe the 10s or 20,000s are the Rev Gs, and I think I've got a Rev G. I think it's easily the best sounding one out there, so try to get a Rev G if you can find it. They're worth the extra little bit of money that you pay, and I think they sound way better than the newer ones. So in my Twitter profile it says I'm a mathematician, so I guess I've officially been busted in my secret life. Long story short, yeah, I really love mathematics and science, and I did all that kind of stuff through school. I still love it, and I'm still a mega nerd for all that kind of stuff. And as my wife will tell you, she'll catch me up late at night on my tablet looking at stuff, and she probably expects that I'm looking at porn or something like that, and really I don't know, reading about a theorem or something from physics. So yeah, I did an honors degree in pure mathematics, and my thesis was Zn actions on measure spaces and entropy. So if any of you out there want to read my thesis, I'll put a link up to it. And yeah, so I did honors and I did pretty well, I think, and then I sort of just stopped it all to do music, and here we are, standing out in a field on a sunny day, talking into a camera to some people all around the world. Can a computer illiterate child of the 80s who's into real amps get into digital modeling? Honestly, man, I think the only barrier to any stuff that you want to get into is always yourself. So if you've convinced yourself that you're not going to like it, it's probably not for you. The digital stuff, as it's been thrashed to death. It doesn't sound like an amp in the room. It's emulating the whole signal chain. So maybe a good thing to do is go and book out some studio time and take your amp in and mic it up through a really good preamp, and get one of your buddies to bring in an Axe-Fx or something and have a listen to how close it can emulate the whole signal chain of like guitar, amp, mic, preamp, through studio monitors. That would be the best way, maybe, to become a little bit more literate about all these kind of things. Otherwise, keep cranking your amps. You know, there's nothing wrong with old amps and listening to them in a room and enjoying them if that's what you're into. So Schala or Grover locking tuners, I have tried neither of those, but what I have on a bunch of my Les Paul style guitars are the Godot SD90s. They basically don't look like a locking tuner. They have the auto lock mechanism, and I really like those. I've got them on my PRS guitars, and I think they sound great. So maybe look at the Godot SD90s, and they're cheaper too. So go Godot. We all have a fantasy of being on stage, watching a band, and the guitar player calls you out to get up on stage. I remember the very first concert I went to, it was Carlos Santana playing in Perth, and I was like 13 maybe, 14. I just started playing guitar, and I remember being like, oh, imagine if, you know, someone just passed the guitar down into the audience and I got it. So that's my fantasy still, is getting up and, you know, playing the lick from Smooth with Carlos Santana, because I reckon that lick is the most bang for buck when it comes to, you play it and people would lose their mind. Either that or being the guitar player in Smash Mouth when they play All Star. Alright, Helix versus Axe 3 and the response of the pots. Look, I found that it's pretty accurate with my amps. If you found that it's not accurate with your amps, again, all of these kind of things, it's like, how are you monitoring stuff? How are you amplifying it? What are you listening through? It seems like you've convinced yourself that you're not into the Axe effects, and if that's the case, if you like the Helix better, just use it. You know, there's no right or wrong way to get a guitar sound. At the end of the day, it's just a guitar sound. I love the Axe effects. I find it's very much like my real amps, which is why I have one. I still have my real amps because I'm a gearhead and I love this kind of stuff, and I often reference them. And yeah, I'm always so impressed by how good it sounds. And to me, it's almost like, you know, all of these kind of things have their own character and their own voicing, which is why they're good and why they're worthwhile, and, you know, why I own them, basically. All right, let's talk about pickup output and high output versus medium output versus low output. There's been a lot of noise about this on the internet recently. If you checked out Fluff's video where he's talking about guitar pickups, which, you know, granted the title was total clickbait like most people on YouTube, but there's something in there where he was essentially saying, you know, these days we've got so many tools to use when it comes to EQing guitar, right? And that, you know, if a pickup doesn't have enough bass, you can just go to the amp and turn the bass up or down. And yeah, you can do that, but what he doesn't discuss in that video is that there's a difference between pre-EQ, which essentially is what your pickup is doing, and post-EQ, like in an amp. When you turn the bass knob in a Marshall, it's after the gain stage. So your pickup character is really important because it's shaping the gain. So for that reason, I love low output pickups, I love high output pickups, I love pickups of all different magnitudes. I've actually got a Sir Aldrich sitting in one of my guitars, and I think it sounds absolutely slamming for high gain tones and that sort of compressed, sticky, gooey thing. I like PAF style pickups for more of the, you know, open, raucous kind of thing. And pickups do matter. It all matters. It's all personal preference as well. So pickups are a very important part of your pre-gain EQ chain, essentially, and they also have a very important resonant peak, and you've got to talk about impedance, and also the cable that you're using is important. So all that kind of stuff, I always think a guitar tone, it's a synergy, so go out and approach it like that. All right, that is this week's Q&A. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you have questions for next week, get them in the comments. I would love to hear from all of you, and big thanks to Elspeth behind the camera, because her arms are almost falling off. And yeah, if you're ever going on holiday, bloody Perth, Western Australia, mate, it's all right, isn't it? God, I'm gonna hate myself for that. See you guys.